Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Rosabelle, this is such a rare occurrence, you not picking up the phone. I had questions about today's episode, but I guess we just have to move on without you. I'm David Farrier, a New Zealander accidentally marooned in America, and I want to figure out what makes this country tick. Now, you may recall an episode we did called Fake Seizure Guy, where we told the story of a man in Melbourne, Australia, who would fake seizures in order to get people to sit on him. During that episode, we raised the theory that the man at the center of the story may have had autism, and his fake seizures were a way for him to stim. Well, after that episode went out, we got an email from Lisa Didion, an assistant professor of special education at the University of Kansas. She's been listening to this show for ages, and she shares my fear of rabies, but she also had some feedback. And this is what she wrote. Your recent Seizure Man episode highlighted there's still a need for a better understanding and respectful representation of people with disabilities, considering the challenges within existing systems and prevailing mindsets. She went on, the US has been a pioneer in disability rights, setting a standard that many other countries tried to replicate, especially in the realm of special education. Right now, more than ever, we need platforms like yours to amplify the voices of those with and advocating for the rights of students with disabilities. The current risks and potential dismantling of the Department of Education will be devastating. It's crucial to preserve and protect the rights of all individuals with disabilities. I emailed her back straight away, saying I'd love to talk to her for this show. Then a few other things happened. World Autism Awareness Day came and went in April, and then I got invited to an Autism Reveal Party. The universe was telling me something. It was time for an episode on autism. So get out the most recent edition of DSM-5 and prepare to party, because this is the Autism Reveal Party episode.
Flightless bird, touchdown in America. I'm a flightless bird, touchdown in America.
Rob, how are you?
We had a long, eventful
It's been a time.
week and a half.
We have been on tour. The San Francisco show we did will be coming out in our feed in the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. But yeah, those shows they were wild and fun.
They were a lot of fun. I also feel like we've aged a lot since we've last
Well, like just for some
recorded.
context, it was a mixture of live shows for us and a family holiday for you. And I was kind of like the uncle that was along for the ride. My best memory of the trip was your son Vincent coming into my room, getting into my American Girl dolls, which I now travel with for the live shows, removing their little tiny shoes and necklaces, and walking with bravado into my bathroom and just throwing it all into the toilet.
Yeah.
And I don't have a kid, so I don't really know. It's just like, don't put them in there. Like, let's keep them out of the toilet. But, he didn't know. He doesn't know. Like, he's figuring out what all these, what are toilets for? What's going on?
He's just learning how to use it. And he told us that he flushed a bunch of the bracelets down.
How did he explain it?
I heard Natalie was making him go to the bathroom on the toilet. And he was just telling her, I put David's bracelets in the toilet. And then I flushed them.
It's really good.
She was concerned. She was like, oh, you don't do that.
Well, also, I guess if he said David's bracelets, maybe
she
it was like my jewelry or something was going down the toilet.
She had no idea. I knew they were tiny little
it's really fun.
Beads.
I love that he told her as well, just as a fact.
Yeah.
Your mum joined us at one point because she was kind of like a babysitter as well. She was great. I love your mum.
Yes, having my mom was fun. I think you told me at one point she reminded you a lot of your mom.
Big time.
Which makes sense that we had the same
very similar vibes. And I imagine I was getting probably a slight version of your mum because she was like, I was there and she was probably giving me a version of herself as well.
Yeah.
She was like a classic mum. She's like a mum.
You get to see what vacation with kids is like. It's not really vacation.
No, I know. I'm aware. I came back with a cold. It's wrecked. I was ruined. I wake up
Yeah. Well, Vincent got pink eye 2 days into it.
Yeah, he started like trying to touch my phone all the time and stuff with his little disgusting pink eye fingers.
You do have to tell the story of the morning that in Portland that you woke up and you were in the kitchen and he came down.
Oh no, it was amazing. You all tend to like sleep in a little bit. I get up.
Sleep in.
I get up early. I'm always the first one up.
Sure, but I mean, we're up at 7.
If you're up at 7, I'm up at 6:30.
Okay.
So I was in the kitchen and I was making myself a little coffee, and Vincent just slowly like came down the stairs, and he's got an amazing stair descent style. He's kind of like comes down backwards, uses like he's crouching, sliding down.
Was he just in a diaper?
No, he was clothed.
Okay.
And he came down, and he wasn't expecting me to be standing there in the kitchen. And he saw me and kind of like big eyes. And I was like, "Hi, Vincent." And he's like, "Hello." And then like sort of jogged across past me into the lounge, got these toys he wanted.
He was getting his Paw Patrol books.
Okay. He got his books. And as he went back past me and up the stairs, I think he was more and more uncertain of like who I was. And so he took the longest possible route around the room, like hugged the wall, around the far wall and then the other wall, like as far away as humanly possible from me, and then sort of made a dash for the stairs. And his eyes were on me the whole time.
Just side-eyeing.
He was like a ninja, just like slowly like edging along the wall. God, it was good. He wasn't scared. He was just unsure of like who this tall man was. He was really good. But I think by the end of it, we'd bonded to the point where he was like getting all my shit and throwing it into the toilet. So by the end of the trip, we're tight.
And then some foreshadowing for San Francisco. This won't be in the actual show when we release it.
Yeah.
But he came out for a second with Calvin. Slobbered all over the mic.
We had them on the couch briefly.
Yeah. And our guest for the show has a smart vibrator.
Yes.
That collects orgasm data.
And we had it, she hadn't been on yet, and we had it tucked behind one of the props. But
on the coffee table in front of us on stage.
But yeah, as Vincent went to leave, to leave stage, he just saw this pink thing, grabbed it, held it up. So the audience all saw suddenly like this. He's 1 second, he's there. The next second, there's a kid holding a vibrator. No reason behind it. Like there's no reason for there to be a vibrator there.
And then tried to run off with it. He grabbed it.
Oh, he loved it.
He grabbed it 3 times. I have to having to grab it from him before.
Yeah, and then I believe at some point, your wife Natalie had to come on stage
and just
deal with him.
Yeah.
And she reminded me of that clip of there's like a scientist doing a Zoom, and his kids enter like from behind the door, and his wife comes in and has to like grab the kid. Remind me of that. She did not want to be on stage. No. She was like, "Oh God, but I have to go and like fix this problem these stupid men have created." And so she came and sorted it out. Chef's kiss moment. Loved it.
Yeah, that probably the best part of the live show.
We want to do some more live shows at some point in the future when we get some time.
So stay tuned for some dates maybe soon.
I feel like while we were gone, there was the space flight that Katy Perry was on. Went up into space. A lot of anger over that. I'm still kind of marveling that happened. I do think one of my favorite moments of the year was Katy Perry like kissing the ground when she came back. Just love the drama of it all.
So can you explain? Yeah. Did they actually go to? I just saw a photo of them.
So they were. It was the whole gimmick was that it was going to be like the first all-female crew in space. So yeah, they left the atmosphere. There was no gravity. They floated for a moment, but Bezos sent them up in his rocket. People got very annoyed because it was just kind of ultimately sort of mostly pointless.
Yeah, kind of meandering
and just so dramatic and over the top. And I think of any time and to be in the world for there to sort of be an extreme of all these some incredibly wealthy people going up, being sent up by a wealthy person for kind of just like a bit of PR.
Yeah.
It turned. I think when they set out on that mission, they were like, this is like a very empowering, amazing thing to do. But I think when Katy Perry was revealing like a track listing and like lyrics for her album to camera, it just got a little bit,
And to contrast everything else that's going on.
Yeah, it just wasn't it was poorly timed, I think.
So they already went up. Was it like a surprise?
No, they knew they were going up.
But did the world know they were going up?
I didn't know they were going up.
I thought like the picture just came out. It was
a surprise to me.
And they had come down, and that was...
And yeah, I don't know how much like lead up there was to that, but I just remember my entire timeline on every bit of social media was just like various shots of people gawking at the camera in space.
Yeah.
And Katie holding up a little flower that I think she brought up on behalf of her daughter or something. It was just, I think just overall, it was a very cringy, badly timed show of money and wealth that people just didn't really need to see.
Yeah.
But that happened while we were on tour. Everything else is kind of a blur in the world. I'm sure other things happened too. Oh, yeah, of course. RFK.
Yeah.
Just to get on to today's topic. RFK came out and said some crazy shit about autism, which annoyed a lot of people.
He claimed that they're going to end autism?
Yeah, he wants to do a big, giant study and basically figure out the environmental causes of autism and therefore be able to fix it. So Kennedy announces new studies to examine environmental factors linked to autism. This is from thehill.com. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the agency will launch a series of new studies aimed at finding the environmental toxins he believes are causing increasing rates of autism spectrum disorder. Kennedy said this is coming from an environmental toxin. By the way, this is all bullshit. And somebody made a profit by putting that environmental toxin into our air, our water, our medicines, our food.
Someone's profiting from autism.
He also said, again, another false claim, that most autism cases are severe and that there are kids who will never pay taxes, never hold a job, or play baseball and write poems. They will never go on a date or use a toilet unassisted. He was just rambling on. His remarks have come under sharp scrutiny from activists who note many people diagnosed with autism live perfectly normal lives. So, yeah, it was him rambling on about a whole lot of his own obsessions that he has, which seem like, again, I sometimes pick these topics to do, or they pick me, and then they sort of seem somewhat more topical than I intended.
Yeah. There's more today from him creating a database where he's going to track people with autism, is what I think I read today.
Right. Like a database of Americans and about them and whether they have autism.
Yeah, I guess. The articles I saw were comparing it to Hitler and...
Oh, right. Right.
They were doing
looking
the same.
At the genetic makeup of people.
Yeah.
What to know about RFK Jr.'s autism registry plan? Health Secretary RFK Jr. is launching a disease registry to track Americans with autism. Advocacy groups and experts have called Kennedy's characterization of autism as a preventable disease unfounded and stigmatizing. So the National Institute of Health is collecting private medical records from both federal and commercial databases for the purpose of studying autism. Advocates expressed privacy concerns around the plan. Bob Merold, managing partner at a healthcare strategic planning firm, said that data collection was likely redundant and a potential waste of funding dollars. So the whole thing just sounds like another disaster in this administration. While this is all going on, the Trump administration has cut funding for other autism research. Research that was not lunacy.
Yeah. I mean, the way they're cutting funding and jobs and trying to save money, but then doing things like this. The logic seems...
It seems wonky.
Yeah.
To be a minority of any kind in America at the moment just seems like, it's like, who's next?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think anyone woke up with autism and going, oh, wow, we're going to be targeted in some weird way today. And then this happens, you know? But you put RFK Jr. in charge of health and some weird shit's probably going to happen. It's not like there wasn't a track record of him doing some pretty bizarre shit.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Symbiotica. If there's one thing I've learned this year, it's that small habits make a huge difference. Do you have like good habits, Rob, or do you just have bad habits? Mine are mostly bad.
I get into habits. I need to do things enough times and then I can make it routine.
Yeah. And that helps you in life.
Helps me a lot.
So when it comes to good small habits, that's where Symbiotica comes in. They make choosing healthy habits easy, enjoyable, and something to look forward to. Plus, spring is here, and we have an amazing deal from our friends at Symbiotica. There's no better time to hit refresh on your routines. I take Symbiotica's liposomal glutathione every morning. It comes in a little pouch. I drink it. It tastes delicious, raspberry flavor, yum yum, and that makes me feel great for the day.
Your body's exposed to toxins every single day, from the air you breathe to the food you eat, but there's one powerful defense, the master antioxidant,
glutathione. Did you know your body naturally produces glutathione, but your levels drop significantly as you age, especially after your 20s to 30s? Symbiotica's liposomal glutathione helps restore what time takes away, supporting cellular energy, defending against free radicals, and promoting healthy aging.
Replenish, protect, and glow from within with one packet.
Symbiotica's supplements never contain seed oils, preservatives, toxins, artificial additives. No unclear ingredients or misleading labels. These are the cleanest, most effective products out there.
Feel your absolute best going into spring with Symbiotica. Wellness made simple.
Go to symbiotica.com/bird for 20% off your order and free shipping. That's symbiotica.com/bird for 20% off your order and free shipping. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Peak Life. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this. It's actually possible to stop drinking coffee entirely because there can be something else that can make you feel just as good.
It's called Peak's Non-DACA. And listen, this is not just another coffee alternative. It's the upgrade your body has been waiting for. I actually am not a coffee person either. I'm a tea drinker.
It's one of the most shocking things about you.
I'm very happy about Peak. I used to need coffee to function, but after a morning buzz, I was left feeling jittery and anxious and drained by the afternoon. I very quickly just needed more coffee, and I didn't like needing to depend on that.
And that's where non-DACA comes in. And within just a few weeks, everything can change.
Now, instead of a quick caffeine hit, you get steady, sustained energy that lasts all day. No crashes, no afternoon slumps, just clear, focused, calm energy that keeps you going.
So what makes non-DACA so special? Well, unlike other so-called mushroom coffees, this one actually uses real functional mushrooms. A lot of brands use mycelium, which is basically just grain powder. But in non-DACA, it's made with 100% fruiting body mushrooms, the part that actually has the powerful compounds that support energy, focus, and longevity, that stuff that you want. It sustains a calm energy. It's got slow-release caffeine from the fermented probiotic teas, and cocoa provides clear focus all day without the burnout.
And it boosts mood and focus, supports digestion and metabolism, and it is made from pure, clean ingredients. No fillers, no preservatives, no junk, just the best of the best.
So if you're sick of feeling wired, tired, and running on fumes, you need to try non-DACA. Right now, Peak is offering 20% off for life and a free starter kit with your purchase. That's a rechargeable frother and glass beaker to make the perfect cup every time. Just go to peaklife.com/flightlessbird. That's PIQUE life.com/flightlessbird. Trust me, your energy, your gut, and your future self will thank you. Yeah, so essentially, with that happening, and the fact that I'd been invited to an Autism Reveal Party, and someone had reached out saying they wanted to clear things up, I thought, why not put all this together and learn some more about autism, because I don't really know a lot. All right, how's your day going so far? Let's get levels.
It's going well. I'm sweaty.
It's a hot day.
It's a hot day.
This event was your idea, am I correct?
My idea was for him to get tested. My idea was not the party. No. But once he said he was going to do that, it was like, of course, that's what he's doing.
It's a hot, sunny Saturday afternoon in East Los Angeles, and I'm at an Autism Reveal Party. I'm talking to Kira, who many months ago gently urged her partner Cole to get tested for autism. What made you want to get your partner tested for autism? What was it? A number of things? Has it been over a long period of time? Was it one big thing that made you think, let's try this?
I feel that he's robotic. I feel that he's been told that his whole life, and it's been like some charming thing about him, and it was like some like, oh my God, he's so quirky and different and yada yada. But the more that I heard about it, and the more that people from his past would tell me, like, yeah, of course he was like fired from some mall job because he couldn't pay attention. I was like, something bigger is going on here, and I think that he has the capacity to open up in ways that he doesn't, or connect with people in ways that he can't. It's in there. But I was like, well, I'm going to take a little hammer to this and like chip away and see why that hasn't been fully uncovered yet.
That chipping away has led to today's party, where Cole is going to reveal his autism diagnosis to about 40 friends and colleagues gathered in his backyard. To be clear, Cole doesn't know what the result is yet. He got tested for autism months ago, but hasn't seen the results. He figured he'd turn this whole thing into a party, a bit like a gender reveal party that Americans seem to love so much. On the invite, he said to wear blue if you thought he had autism and pink if you thought he didn't. How do you feel about this today? Because it's quite exposing, you know?
I was like, listen, that's all well and good. That's cute and everything. But once something's out there, you actually have to work with me on this. It's not like this is it, full stop. You have to work with me on it. Because that's the thing, is I want to be with him. I want this to work. I don't want him out of my life.
Kira tells me they started dating about 3 years ago when Cole was 29. She had a young son from a previous relationship and had no big intention of living with anyone again. So the fact Cole enjoyed a bit of alone time and got sunk into various obsessions, it kind of suited her. But over the last 3 years, she's found it difficult to connect to him at times. She's become both intrigued and at times frustrated, especially in social situations. Situations like today, even.
His body gets tense. He is not listening to anything that I say or anyone else is saying. He's looking other places. I have to like pull him back in towards me. And he told me that one of his like biggest pet peeves yesterday is the sound of pigeons' wings flapping. And I was like, no, you pulled that from Love on the Spectrum. Like, that's not real. And he was like, no, it's very real. And I mean, look at his face right now. Is he having fun? Is that a person enjoying himself? He's not laughing. Oh, wait, he laughed. But is that fake? Yeah, that's fake.
I feel I should step in here just to clarify that both Kira and Cole have a very deadpan sense of humor. On paper, some of what she's saying might sound kind of mean, but in this Kiwi's analysis, it's really not.
But I know that he has the ability to be present. Like my dad dying last year, he showed up for that shit, met all these family members he'd never met, engaged with people, held people. But I'm like, well, I can't just connect with you over trauma every fucking time.
To be day-to-day boring shit as well, every day.
And like fun. And you're funny as fuck.
And with that, I guess it was time to meet the man who's funny as fuck. The man who will soon find out if he's autistic.
It's great. I'm glad anyone showed up.
How are you feeling about today? I think we're sort of not too far away from you revealing the diagnosis. Is that the right term?
Yeah, I guess my fate. Yeah, I don't care. I don't really care. That's the thing. I didn't really care to get assessed. It was my girlfriend that encouraged me to, because I guess I was driving her crazy because she thinks I have trouble maybe talking to people, or she like maybe seeming distant or not present. I think it bothers her when I dissociate, or it seems like I'm not there, and I guess I don't emote on my face enough, and so it's like she wants to feel connected and like her person is there all the time, and I guess if I disappear, it kind of causes her to spiral a little bit.
Cole obviously cares about what his partner thinks of him, but I'm sort of curious what Cole makes of himself, of his life so far. He strikes me as someone who's very observant, and so how has he observed himself?
I never thought I was on the spectrum, but I think now that there's a more like comprehensive understanding of what the spectrum actually is and how broad it is, it would make sense if I am, because, you know, I'd always get in trouble in school for not paying attention. I had to take tests in other rooms because I had really bad anxiety, and like I'd get extra time on tests.
What would your anxiety look like in a test?
I would throw up every day. So I was like the puker kid. I puked out of anxiety. It was sometimes for tests. The main anxiety was about social things like sleepovers or birthday parties. Stuff that was supposed to be fun for a kid was not fun for me. Even in middle school, the only way I could do it is I had a walkie-talkie that connected to my parents' room so that I could, in case in the middle of the night I woke up and missed them, I could talk to them.
He says what Kira had mentioned earlier, that over the years he's found ways to mask, to fit in, which is what all of us do in various ways. But then for him, late last year, he found himself attempting to take that mask off, sitting in a chair, getting tested.
I went in person into this office, and there was this woman in a lab coat. I don't know why the lab coat was necessary. And she sort of asked me questions. We did like a bunch of exercises. She told me to look through like this picture book and like explain what I was seeing or how I interpreted it, and like tell a story with these random objects, stuff like that. So it was hard because I wasn't sure what she was like, what the exercise was looking for. So I told her at the end, I'm like, look, like I know what I'm being tested for, so I'm like hyper conscious of my answers. So like I'm trying to figure out with each exercise what you're trying to pinpoint.
You're second guessing everything.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, that's normal, especially when we're testing adults. It's like, that's how it goes. And then after that, she interviewed my mom as well as my girlfriend.
He said his parents are adamant he's not on the spectrum. He puts that down to a kind of Midwest stigma about it all, something he'd like to shake. As for him, the results are now very close.
I really am 50-50, which is kind of why I wanted to throw this, is because I'm so unsure, and also I just so don't care that why not make the biggest deal out of it that I can.
And so here we all are at this party, where I feel like most people here are 50-50 too. I know this because looking around, half are wearing blue and half are wearing pink. As Cole steps inside to get what I assume is a sealed envelope, I talk to some of his friends, because this is a pretty weird situation to put them in, kind of making them pick a side.
This is a very cool thing to do because he loves information and he loves knowing himself, and he's always 10 steps ahead.
By now, everyone's gathered in the backyard, and Cole reveals a piñata that's now hanging from the doorframe. And inside that dangling blue train is the diagnosis. One that cost about $1,800, but was, luckily for him, covered by insurance, which made it $50. A bargain.
Break the autism pinata! Break the autism pinata! Break the autism pinata! Break the autism pinata!
We love you, Cole!
As the piñata breaks, puzzle pieces fall to the ground.
Solve the puzzle!
Oh my God!
Piece by piece. Piece by piece. Piece by piece. Piece by piece.
Can you just explain what happened?
Sorry. So there's a train piñata that Cole is going to smash open to reveal if he has autism or not. And what came out of the piñata were 300 puzzle pieces that all the guests are now attempting to put together, and the finished puzzle will hopefully give them the answer. But knowing Cole, what's on the puzzle will probably be another hint, and we have to go around the house, and there's something buried underground.
Observing this elaborately constructed situation, I wonder if we already have our answer. And soon, we'll come back to the assembled puzzle to check. In the meantime, as Cole's friends attempt to construct a 300-piece puzzle, I thought I'd speak to the woman who had emailed me a month ago about the last time I'd mentioned autism on this podcast.
So my name is Lisa Didion, and I am an assistant professor at the University of Kansas. I'm also an investigator with the KU Center on Disability, KUCD. And I do not identify as a person with autism, which I think is really important to clarify. I primarily do research about elementary students with learning disabilities and emotional behavioral disorders in the areas of self-determination and database decision-making.
I guess, can you define autism a little bit and what that looks like,
Sure. I can define it, but I can't tell you much about what it looks like because it looks so different for everybody. So it is a neurodevelopmental condition. It affects how a person thinks or communicates or interacts with others. It varies so widely. That's why we use the spectrum term. But it's a condition that persists across their lifespan. So another misconception is that it's a childhood disorder, but it's a condition that spans their entire life. There's a new term that people use to identify with. It's called neurodivergent. Have you ever heard that one before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's used to describe people whose brains just process or learn different than what society has deemed typical. And so similar to like LGBTQ plus or the deaf community, the neurodivergent community has a lot of pride, kind of like your friend. And they're like, you know, they're very excited and identify as being neurodivergent. And it's not just autism, it also includes people with dyslexia and ADHD.
I'm curious, you reached out because you've been listening to Flightless Bird for a while, so thank you for that. It's always nice to hear people listen to the podcast. And you had listened to an episode that I'd recorded in Australia called Fake Seizure Guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about a man in Australia who was allegedly faking seizures so people would sort of sit on him and restrain him. And I'm wondering, you had a specific reaction to that episode, and I'm just curious what it was in the episode that made you reach out and email. And you can be critical. You can roast me here. I'm curious.
Yeah. No, I actually re-listened to it because I was like, what was it that why did I feel so compelled to write the email after I had heard that episode? And I actually think you did do a really good job of speaking about the autism community. But I think that what struck a chord with me was that, when we are labeling or saying that someone may be autistic because of some odd behaviors that they're having, I'm not saying that anything that Seizure Man is doing was appropriate behavior whatsoever. But when we just without knowing that individual has autism, that can be really harmful to the autism community as a whole. That if we're just labeling odd behaviors as they must have autism, and people do that all the time when they're talking about people that are in their social circles, like, oh, they're really weird, they might have autism. And we can't be using that types of language. But it also really struck a chord with me because of this idea that I'm also grappling with. I was an elementary school teacher for 6 years, and I had those students for 1 year and did everything I could do in that year to support them. But after that, I had to just trust that as they continued to move through the school system, that other people were going to continue to provide the supports that they needed. And then they exit the system at 18 or 21. They can have services till 21. And there's really no social support or social care. And we oftentimes don't include people with disabilities and students with disabilities in general education classrooms in the way that we should. So there's just really this lack of knowledge and acceptance of presentation of disability in different ways. And so as a teacher, I felt the need, I guess, to teach about disability.
Yeah, so essentially it's this idea of, I guess that episode was the ultimate example of, here is someone who is possibly engaging in deviant behavior, and a really good theory on why this could be a possibility is that they have autism, without knowing for sure, and also then immediately making everyone in the world with autism go, oh God, don't lump me in with this behavior, right?
Yep, you said it perfectly.
Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Aura Frames. Now, the number one thing your mum wants to hear from you, Rob, you should listen to this, is to call her. This Mother's Day, you can give your mum the call she wants. And, like I did with my mum, you can also give her an Aura digital picture frame.
We also have gifted my mom the Aura picture frame.
Have you? Yes.
Since she's across the country, we can just upload photos of the boys. Really, that's all she wants is her grandkids on Aura.
I sent her some photos of our live shows and us on holiday. And she's like, who are these kids? And I'm like, yeah, that's Rob's family. That's really good. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter and featured in 495 gift guides last year. So the next time you need to call your mum, you can also send her a new pic of you from that trip you're telling her about right from your phone.
Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off, plus free shipping on the best-selling Carver matte frame. That's AURA frames.com, promo code BIRD. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Support for Flightless Bird comes from Pesty. Now, something, I've talked about this before on the show, when summer hits in LA, my one-bedroom apartment seems to be a new home for cockroaches, and it freaks me the hell out.
That is something I hate about Los Angeles.
Disgusting. Where are they the rest of the year?
The bugs in LA are different bugs than I grew up with. So they're a different kind of gross to me. Like if it's ants and stuff, we have those in Chicago. Fireflies,
beautiful.
Love that. But we get cockroaches too, and I hate it.
Okay, this is where Pesty comes in. Pesty is do-it-yourself pest control. I wish I'd known about this last year. They give you the same products the pros use at a quarter of the cost. Their kit makes it easy. It only takes a few minutes to apply. Other pest control companies charge over $800 per year, but with Pesty, you can get started at just $35 per treatment with a customized plan built on your location, the bugs you have, and the climate.
We got a bunch of Pesty and we put it around your apartment. Have you seen any cockroaches since?
I've seen none so far, and I'm overjoyed.
And it was so easy to get started. You get the kit, there's a sprayer, a mixing bag, gloves, instructions on how to do it in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm a big stickler for saving money, so I'm also very into it being cheaper. It's also kid and pet friendly. Pesticides they ship are fully registered and have been used in hospitals and schools all over the country. Pesty also offers 100% bug-free guarantee or your money back.
And the best thing is Pesty gets rid of over 100 types of bugs, from spiders to ants to roaches and stink bugs.
Get rid of them.
Now it's time to protect your home from bugs with Pesty. Go to pesty.com/bird for an extra 10% off your order.
That's PESTIE.com/bird for an extra 10% off.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
With that somewhat cleared up, I thought I'd check in with what she thought of the idea of an Autism Reveal Party, to see if perhaps I was putting my metaphorical foot in it yet again. Luckily for me, she was into it.
Yeah, I loved that. And, I did talk to some of my autistic friends before this interview, and they also were like, that is great. It is really, what we're striving for is that, people see this as part of their identity in a really cool way, and that this is a part of who they are.
And so looking at autism, what do you think is one of the biggest sort of misconceptions about autism? Because I came into this interview pretty underprepared, and as I do with most of my interviews, and I feel like I know very little.
The biggest myth, and I don't know if you want to talk about like myth so much as misconception, but that vaccines don't cause autism. This is, I think, been debunked a bunch of times and talked about a lot, but it's still really prevailing in this country. It really started out that it's the mother's fault. And we talked about the idea in like the 50s was that these refrigerator moms that were really icy to their children. And this is why these behaviors were coming about, which is a terrible thing to do to these mothers. And then in 1998, Andrew Wakefield, he claimed that leaky gut syndrome caused vaccine. And so this was meaning that like neurotoxic proteins were in the bloodstream and they got into the brain and they somehow caused autism. But this study that he did that we're still citing and talking about and has like pushed this rumor forward is he handpicked all these participants in this case series. It was a really small sample size. There was 8 children with autism that had these symptoms. There's a lack of scientific rigor, a conflict of interest. He was a GI doctor. So it's been discredited. In actuality, I think we have over like 16 large-scale experimental studies that say that there's no link. But this myth still persists about vaccines. Some of the reasons is because around 12 to 18 months is when we start to first see the developmental markers of autism, which is around the same time that children are given the measles, mumps, rubella, the MMR vaccine. And it's an external blame that we can give to the struggles and the barriers that people with autism face instead of, really looking inward and thinking about what it is that what it is that the society has in place that makes these struggles possible.
Do we know if autism in the population is increasing or decreasing, or is that really hard to tell just because we're now finally testing for it more, I imagine?
Yeah, you're right on there. It actually is not on the rise. So people, want to say like, oh, it's so much more prevalent. It's not. It's because of those changes to the DSM. In DSM in 1994, and we started to recognize it, we had a different category. So these students were in other categories. And so we saw a spike in the 90s and when kids were diagnosed. But this is a really good thing because now we can provide these students with supports. It also bleeds into the vaccine myth because at the same time, this is when MMR vaccines started to increase. So it really fed to that story. And sometimes people will be like, well, I didn't see people with autism growing up. Well, before 1975, they were in institutions. So they were there, and without ADA in 1990 and the laws and, the Rehab Act, they were at home because we weren't providing places for people with autism and other disabilities to really exist in our community. So it's not actually on the rise. We're just better at identifying it.
Lisa told me that if she ever has a friend who thinks their child may have autism, her basic reaction is great because they're going to get really wonderful services when it comes to education and resources in America. I mean, we won't get into what Trump is doing with education as a whole right now. That's very scary, and that'll be another episode. I talked to Lisa for ages, but one thing really stuck out to me in particular, a way of seeing things that I hadn't really thought about before. This whole time, I'd been thinking about autism as the issue, the thing that made some people's lives a little trickier. But it's not really that. It's literally everything else. I'll let her explain.
I always tell to my students, we have this school game is the way I talk about it, where we teach kids, you have to sit in your chair, or you have to raise your hand to talk, or you need a pass to go to the bathroom. And these are really arbitrary rules that we put in place in school. And if people or students can't fit these rules, or they're disobedient toward them, then they often sometimes can be, identified as having a disability or referred to special education if they're not responding to the instruction in the way that you're doing it. And so I like that when my students pushed back on when I asked them to do something and they would push back, I've just always liked that they really challenged my perspective on well, why do they have to do 20 of the same problem over again? Or why do they need to put their name on this worksheet right now? Is this really that important that we need to have this power struggle? And so I like that, people with disabilities, they are people and they have perspectives, and their perspective is really important. And so the whole, disability is caused by policies that we have in place and these structures that we built. And we as a society have agreed upon these norms and said that anything that doesn't fit them is a disability if it's not normal, in quotes. And so we really have to look inward instead of trying to blame other external things. And instead of, seeing this as a tragedy, is thinking about that there are these barriers in place that we can fix and we can change, and we need people with disabilities and their perspectives to tell us, and they can, on what they want and what they need. And we just need to be more creative and more imaginative so that we can include more people in more places.
Yeah, that's a really great way of thinking about it. It's they're fine, but they unfortunately are stuck on a planet where they're we have to do something this way? What the fuck? Why? That's the problem, that this thing they have to live in.
Yep. They are who they are, and they're allowed to present the way they want to present.
Before we get back to the results of the Autism Reveal Party, I wanted to talk to one more person at the University of Kansas, Ben Edwards, an assistant researcher.
So I am a person with a disability, autism, ADHD, and anxiety and mental health conditions. I would say that autism is a neurological type that causes people to think differently from neurotypical people. The way I describe it is, well, it just means it's a different sensory, different perceptual, different neurological system
what advantages do you think having autism and ADHD gives you? Because I feel like you've got this wonderful spicy brain that sees things in an entirely different way, and that can be a pretty great thing.
Yeah, I think there are definitely some advantages, like my ability to relate to a topic that I find interesting. I think that in turn, for both with both autism and ADHD, I can not only see value in things that others might just totally not see value in or not even perceive altogether.
Ben says with the autism and ADHD, he can take in and hold a lot of information about certain topics and pick up important details that others simply miss, especially when it comes to things he's interested in. I definitely get obsessed with things and go pretty deep into them when I'm into them. I'm curious what your most recent obsession has been.
One thing I've always kind of had a lot of passion for is mythology, the myths and legends of different cultures. Sometimes I see people with disabilities in myths. I don't know if this so much counts as mythology, but more artificial mythology, as it's been called. But I've been a huge fan of Lord of the Rings ever since I was 13.
You've answered all my questions and you've been super helpful. So thank you so much.
Sure. I'm happy to help with this all. And and good luck with, I really like this idea of, continuing to learn about more and more aspects of American culture, and, good luck with that.
Actually, what would be a topic you would pick if you're going to look at one unique aspect that America has? What's something you would be interested in?
Oh, gosh. There's just so many topics. One thing that's really on my mind is the future of our democracy, which so many people are kind of talking about, and there's been so much activity about going on lately. There's also the funding of, say, different programs, including university programs throughout the United States, because this crosses into all sorts of topics that I do really care about, like the topic of indigenous rights in the United States, the topic of LGBTQIA plus rights, and gender equity, and the rights of racial minorities.
It should probably come as no surprise that a researcher like him would also make a pretty great podcast story producer. And feeling slightly more educated about autism, what it means and how we react to it, it's time to head back to Cole and Kira. Turns out the people at the party had failed to put that 300-piece puzzle together in time, frustrating Cole, who'd taken all the puzzle pieces into his bedroom, shut the door, and assembled it himself. An hour later, he emerges, puzzle complete. We all look on as he reads the assembled diagnosis from a clinical psychologist.
Based on this evaluation, it was determined that Mr. Hirsch meets DSM-5-TR criteria for the following diagnosis: autism spectrum!
I guess at this point I should reveal that I was wearing blue. I was on the correct side of history at this party. Kira brings out a cake. It's decorated with icing that spells out, "Congratulations, you are autistic." Does it feel nice to have everyone else know what you sort of have known?
I feel like they already knew. Like, who are they kidding? But yeah, of course. I love seeing this blue. Blue, blue, blue. Oh, everybody changed. They were like, I never didn't think it.
How does it feel? I guess it answers some questions. I'm not surprised. I don't care. I think that's how I feel.
I wonder if this is the first Autism Reveal Party ever.
I'm sure there's been some.
Really, if you think about it, it's beautiful that autism brought us all together like this.
As his friends, I really cherish the result. I think it's accurate, and I love him.
It's not lost on me that the reveal could have been a lot simpler.
Off to the side, quietly sipping a drink, is Cole's girlfriend of 3 years. She knew these results ahead of time, officially and unofficially. She reckons she knew the second she met Cole, met this guy she really loves. And as difficult as he can be, he's also wonderful. She knows, because her son knows too.
My son is obsessed with him because when he pays attention to you or says anything interesting towards you, it's so pivotal. It's like, it's so lovely because it's like, there you are. I mean, it reminds me of Hook. You remember the movie Hook?
I know.
Where they're like, there you are, Peter.
Yeah, it pops out.
Yeah, it pops out. So that's what I love about his like group of friends. They're like, we know who you are and what you are and how you behave and we love you. But they don't date him.
A lot to take in. Probably, I mean, the first Autism Reveal Party I've ever been to. And it was an event. I mean, Cole turned it into an event where suddenly a diagnosis was turned into a piñata, turned into puzzle pieces that had to be solved.
So this was Cole's idea.
This was Cole's idea.
And he planned all of it?
It was all him.
Okay.
Yeah, so Kira wanted him to get tested because basically, and I should clear up.
It felt like she was a little harsh.
Yeah, so
on him.
Yeah, no, she was harsh, but I think that's also like, that's her sense of humor. She has like a very New Zealand kind of sense of humor, which is very like dry and very roasty and is like done with affection. Because an interesting thing though of like, how do we talk about people? Because Cole's autistic, right? We know this now. Like how we talk about people with it.
Yeah, but it was more the fact that it was, he was being talked about in a negative manner as if it were almost a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I'd argue that's just her being dry as hell.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I think a bit of that is maybe lost in the translation because she is very loving and caring. But I think just it's a very dry balls Kiwi kind of humor.
Well, no, I imagine that. It was more just because I know there is sensitivity around the subject.
Yeah,
and
completely.
like the whole point of even this is destigmatizing this thing and not talking about it as if it is like a black mark that's being
Completely.
made.
It's not a negative thing.
Yeah.
And also, to be fair, Lisa hadn't listened to any of the party. I just basically told her, hey, some friends in LA are having a autism reveal party. What do you think of the concept of this going on? But I guess it is that thing of, and I'd be curious to go back to them as well and after this has all happened and kind of think about, how are you talking about each other in this and what does that look like?
Well, because to me, the diagnosis like doesn't change what needs to happen now. Like, him being diagnosed autistic doesn't change that. Like, they have some things they need to work on. In their relationship, it sounds like that she wants. I guess it helps give them a little direction on where to go. It sounds like you need a couples therapist, not an autism reveal party.
Yeah, not necessarily a diagnosis.
Yeah. Which maybe that would have come out of couples therapy as well.
From what I could tell of the short time I was there, I feel like she wanted some answers into certain ways in the way that they interacted so she could understand things a little bit better and that could hopefully bleed into how they related to each other as opposed to sort of thinking, oh, like you're purposely doing this thing, which I don't understand, sort of having more of a reason for it, I guess. It's not like ADHD where there's medication.
Right.
It's more behavioral things. So it's like, what's the point in even knowing? And what does that change? Which is, I think, what you're saying.
Well, and part of it too of like the dressing, like it is like, let's play into stereotypes and you decide what you think based on stereotypes.
Yeah, so you're saying like even the idea of setting up a party as being like dress in pink if you think he has autism or blue if you don't is kind of in bad taste as well.
I'm on the fence and like open to the conversation around if that is offensive or not.
Yeah, I completely. I think it's one of the wildest things I'd ever heard, like an autism reveal party. And I should also say that both of them are very funny.
Yeah.
Like they both do comedy stuff. And so I think the whole idea of it was built into like, let's make this a funny sort of very open thing.
Right.
And part of that is destigmatizing it.
Yeah,
and then part of it is also let's just have this like very silly afternoon or something.
Which I don't know if it should or not, but the fact that like Cole is the one who orchestrated all this thing, and it turns out he does have autism, like to me, then it's like, all right, well,
it makes sense.
And it seems more allowed at that point.
Yeah. So you're saying if he is not on the autism spectrum and this whole event was done,
or his girlfriend planned all of it, and he was dragged along.
Oh yeah, and he definitely wasn't dragged.
Yeah.
This definitely wasn't an abusive situation. No, they're both very on board with getting this thing done.
Yeah,
he just took it up a further notch to I think what was ever intended.
Which it's a cheeky play on it.
Deeply curious what listeners think of this, because I figure this will be a polarizing sort of topic to talk about, and I have no doubt that I will have much with Fake Seizure Guy, said some things that are insensitive and weird. So, as always,
I don't know that you did.
Just the concept is the concept of it is a really interesting thing.
But at the end of the day, what Lisa is saying is she's trying to destigmatize this and show how people with autism are living day to day, and this is helping to do that, I think.
Well, yeah, not being embarrassed about the idea of being on any kind of spectrum, but just being like, hey, this is what I am, and it's fine.
Yeah,
and let's all celebrate it and have some cake. That's kind of like the deal.
Yeah, and that part of it I did like from Cole of he was.
Oh, he didn't give a shit.
Yeah, he was happy. It was not.
It was like he was nonplussed. I think his attitude is kind of what you want, which is like, I don't care. This is who I am, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Let's have some cake. And it was a really good cake. In the show notes, I'll put the links to some of those articles we referred to as well. Yeah, in a world of RFK kind of peddling ideas about parents doing something wrong and that's why their kids have autism and that kind of thing, I think all that needs to be called out as bullshit.
And having to just fix it.
Yeah, being a problem to be fixed.
Yeah, the more and more we have TV shows like Love on the Spectrum where
totally
you're seeing it's becoming more and more mainstream.
Yeah. Well, no, it's being reflected. People that are on the spectrum are being reflected in the media in a way that is not offensive and weird.
And they're being represented. You've got Atypical on Netflix too, and you're just seeing these stories of how different people are living and that they still have full lives.
It's not like Big Bang Theory where it's used as a joke or the whole thing that defines a character is that they're autistic, right?
Yeah.
The Pit is this other show, this hospital drama, which I love, which has an autistic character, and it's just a positive representation of that thing. And it's at no point in the show, it's not referenced at any point, this is what this person has. It's just, no, they're clearly on the spectrum and they happen to have the same problems and skills that the other people have in the ER. And it's this really normal thing.
I do wonder with how ADHD, people get upset when you claim you have ADHD just because you have certain traits of people. I wonder if that sort of thing is happening with, because you hear more and more, it's a spectrum and everyone's on it, or a lot of people are on it to a degree.
No, I think that's a really interesting thing because thanks to TikTok, you've got a load of people finding out they have ADHD and getting tested and having it. At the same time, you've got people using it as flippantly saying it.
Yeah.
And in the way a lot of us flippantly say so many things I'm going to kill myself. It's when something they can't make it to the movie in time. KMS. It's just using this language in a way that's just no, that's not for you. You're not going to do that, so don't use it.
Well, and just people that are socially awkward, then I don't love eye contact, and I don't love a lot of social interactions.
Yeah, completely. And that doesn't give you the right to suddenly go around saying, oh, I'm autistic, or oh, I must have ADHD.
Yeah.
It's just, I think a lot of it as well is the intent of why you're saying what you're saying as well. But I think it's overall takeaway. I feel like it's good to just sort of be reminded that none of this is not normal. Yeah. And something Lisa said, which I pointed out, is that, and I hadn't thought about it in that way, but like it's the system that makes it a problem. It's like, it's the fact that certain people can't fit into these like societal systems we've created and make it awkward. Because I remember like at school, I was like, I fitted in perfectly. Like I was a suck up to the teachers. I was like, I just enjoyed school. There were a couple of people in my class that were like, I remember at the time judging them and thinking, oh, you're so like, you're a terrible student. You're being naughty. You're being awful. I look back now and they like clearly just had spicy brains.
Right.
And I know now one of them now is literally like one of the best surgeons in Australia. Well, and that's because his brain was amazing, but he was forced into like a school setting which didn't let him be himself.
Yeah, I mean, I think the benefits of it is not to label people as other, but it's to help learn what strategies they need to thrive.
Totally.
That's where the benefit of
having a diagnosis can have. Yeah.
But I also do get the argument of, is that diagnosis helpful because it changes how you perceive yourself or how others perceive you? But then it is this chicken or the egg of like, well, let's change how culture perceives people with this diagnosis.
Totally. Yeah. And how much are you having to mask and fit in versus how much should society change?
Yeah. What tools does that then open up for you and how you can live better?
Which is probably easier and more important. I might be wrong on this, but feels like it's more important for kids to have when they're in a school system.
Right.
Where if school can shuffle and like make things more doable, probably more helpful for a kid with autism than an adult with autism who is like out in the world doing their thing.
Right.
Do you want to hear some feedback?
Let's hear some feedback.
And if you had feedback to this episode, by the way, as always, flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com.
I feel like there's going to be a lot.
Yeah, and bring it on.
I'm
very into feedback, always. Okay. Quite a few people wrote in from the live show we released in Portland saying, why did we have a Bigfoot expert on when David, myself, is so vehemently anti-conspiracy theories? Like, why we got someone talking about Bigfoot? And to that, I would just say, one, Bigfoot is just quintessentially deeply American to me. I grew up with Harry and the Hendersons and Bigfoot lore. And the other thing is, I think there's a very separate world in conspiracy theories where Bigfoot isn't taking people down like dangerous health information lines. It's not particularly racist. It's not full of all the like hideous shit that you get with QAnon. And so I'm very fine talking to someone that is convinced that Bigfoot is real, if that makes sense.
And it's very much that region. It was because we were in Portland that.
Oh, that's the other thing. I mean, he literally just came from a Bigfoot conference that we then drove past when we were going somewhere else. I'm definitely anti-conspiracy, definitely anti-woo, but I also, growing up, I had a love for cryptozoology, like Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. I love all that shit.
Well, and I also think
it's not dangerous.
The idea of Bigfoot and people's belief in it is what's interesting and American.
100%.
And that's why I don't think either of us believe in Bigfoot.
No, I don't.
We're convinced, or we're trying to convince people that Bigfoot exists. Until both of us see skeletons and
I want Bigfoot to walk into the room or see a full skeleton.
That will be what it would take for me to believe in Bigfoot.
Same. But no, did enjoy the Bigfoot feedback. A lot of you wrote in saying that there's already a podcast in which someone eats every bit of cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory. So I'm off the hook. Yes.
But if anyone wants to deliver that cheesecake to David.
No, don't want that. Kelly wrote in about the Oregon Trail, which we mentioned in the Portland episode. Apparently an author, Rinka Buck, which is a great name, tried to recreate the Oregon Trail journey as best he could in modern times in 2011 and released a book about it. He then followed that up with another book about a boat trip from early settler days and took it down the Mississippi River and wrote another book. So there you go. Kim wrote in about the Cheesecake Factory. My husband and I were driving across the country from Blaine to Kittery Point when this episode aired. We hadn't eaten at a Cheesecake Factory in over 10 years. Cue up the major craving for red velvet cheesecake. Your favorite, Rob. And an hour and a half later, we had an unscheduled pit stop. We had a delicious Cheesecake Factory meal. Thanks for breaking up 5 days of driving with a great podcast and an unscheduled pit stop for cheesecake.
I was at Maru today, and I
Your fave?
Overheard someone talking about the Cheesecake Factory.
Did you step in and say, I'm a podcaster, and we did an episode about the Cheesecake Factory?
Absolutely not.
Never do that. Kelly had some feedback on beavers. She was at the Portland show, had a great time. The expert on beavers was fantastic. I wanted to write in to give minor credit to Rosabel's assertion that Portland has barrels associated with it. I work at Westwood Whiskey, where we make single malts, and we happen to do it across the railroads from Smith Tea, where you did your tea tasting. We make over 1,000 barrels of whiskey a year, and there are many other local distilleries. Between all the whiskey barrels and the wine and beer barrels aging away in our city, I would guess we have a pretty high ratio of barrels. Justice for Rosabel.
Yeah.
With that, Lauren wrote in about Gallagher, the comedian. This is from a while ago.
With Gareth.
I have a story told to me by my father around 1995. At the time, he was living in Huntington Beach, California. My brother and I went to visit him from Colorado, as was customary for school breaks. On this trip, I noticed he had a wound next to his eye, just beyond the rim of his glasses. I brought it up to him when we were alone. My brother was 11 and I was 13. He told me that he had gone to one of our favorite restaurants in the area and had a run-in with Gallagher and his brother. My father had walked out to his car and was making his way out to the front door from the parking lot when he heard men screaming coming from a limo and watched Gallagher and his brother walk out in a heated rage. He walked inside the restaurant and ordered a drink at the bar. As he was paying, he heard yelling again. Gallagher and his brother had flanked him on either side with their backs to him. One ripping quip from one brother to the other ended in Gallagher winding back to throw a punch, but as he turned around, he realized it was in fact my dad. Too little, too late. My dad got a shiner and broken glasses and a drunken apology. I thought you would enjoy my Gallagher story. Danielle, this is big. I was on a flight this weekend from Seattle home to San Diego. Can you see where this is going? She's on a plane.
Oh, is there a window in the bathroom?
I walked my 8-year-old to the bathroom in the back of the plane. The flight attendant motioned for him to, it always sounds made up. The flight attendant motioned for him to use the one on the right and said something like, there's a surprise in there.
I would not go in that
bathroom. No, neither. If anyone
says
that to your kid when they go into a bathroom, do not let them in. I'm thinking, what the hell? I opened the door to find a window. So back of the flight, from Seattle to San Diego, back of the plane, window in the toilet. It happens. It exists.
Well, we took that flight from Portland.
You trolled me. I got an airdrop photo from Rob on the plane.
From Portland to San Francisco for the shows.
And it was within the bathroom, and Rob had doodles a window on a windowless plane.
Was that a doodle?
It's a beautiful rendering.
I mean...
It's beautiful, Rob. It's a thing of beauty. It exists. I'm going to wind up with Charles. Charles, he's from Auckland, New Zealand. That's where I'm from, Rob. One day, you'll come there and visit. He's a new listener to the podcast. I wanted to follow up on a few things. Number one, I really appreciate the way you say fuck and all its derivatives. It's sharp, powerful, and used with purpose.
And cool. And you forgot cool.
Get out some sunnies and put them on. Okay, that's the first thing. He also said, did you know that if you don't want the AI overview in Google, if you put the word fuck or fucking in the search wording, it will give you the bare results with no AI?
I did not know that.
I tried it, and it is completely true.
Wow.
If you put fuck in there, it just AI bails. It doesn't want to touch it, and you just get normal Google. Really good. Maybe be careful as well, because occasionally you might get some. It depends what you pair it with.
Yeah.
Like if you just Google fuck, it might take you to some places
different
you don't want
things,
to go. Finally, in regards to the Cheesecake Factory, in New Zealand, we don't have a whole factory. Rather, we have the Cheesecake Shop. They're a chain that specializes in cheesecake, but they also make various other cakes and sweets. Unfortunately, no nachos. We had our wedding cake made there, and it was delicious. Highly recommended if you and Rob visit New Zealand.
Do you think they're affiliated with Cheesecake Factory?
Not at all. I Googled it, not a whole different thing. So there you have it. That was great feedback, Charles. I like the 3-pronged approach. You're clear, precise. A lot of the feedback we get, it goes on too long. Pages and pages. Charles, you were precise, you were clear, you got to your point. Big supporter.
There was a moment after the San Francisco show, we were in the lobby, and you started yelling like a deranged lunatic. Our email.
Yes.
Someone asked where they write in, and you started yelling.
You know, I did. Yeah, no, I got annoyed. Yeah, I did. It set me off because,
I mean, you were joking. Let's.
I was joking.
You were joking, but there was a layer of
there was a layer of passion and a tiny bit of angst there.
Not a tiny bit.
So the email is flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. Don't DM me. Don't slide in. flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. We have a website, flightlessbirdpod.com. There you'll find all our places you can listen. You can watch it on YouTube. Got t-shirts. Anything else, Rob? Did you just yawn?
No.
It is late. It is at this time. It is Wednesday, April 23rd. It is now 10:22 p.m. We're both still tired from life and touring. Thanks for listening as always. And please email us. We'll see you next week.
And thanks for coming to the shows.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. More soon.